Hi, this is not homework, this is Skill 8 Constructions. This is to review if you need extra help or you feel like you want to understand a little bit better about some of these review notes. So if you look in your Chapter 1 summary, it said bisecting a line segment. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate this. It's basically going to look like that. I'm going to make a line segment, AB, just like they have in that picture, AB. And bisect means cut in half. So if this thing, I made mine 7 long, it should end up somewhere between 3 and 4, right there. Okay, but let's do it with a compass. So step 1, we put it at end on end and we open it a little further than halfway. So that's what I have here. I want to be a little bit beyond halfway and make an arc. You can rewind that if you need to. And again, without opening or closing it, I'm going to, oh, my pencil wiggled. Bad news, people. When that happens, you just got to deal with it, adjust. Put these points into end or use a paper clip. That's another way. So I got to fix this, tighten it down. Got to have a nice tight. Now let me just double check. And that happens all the time. So if it happens to me, it's going to happen to you one day. Okay, now let's just refocus. I want to make the same line, and again, I'm doing this with one hand, so bear with me. I made an arc. Now, without adjusting, I want to go to the other end and make an arc again. And now I'm just going to connect where the two arcs meet and use some type of a straight edge. So I'm just going to use the side of a calculator and trace the line. Notice that it cut that in half. So that's called bisecting a line segment. Okay, we did a couple of classes, did this. All right, next one. The next example, okay, so this one's it's just called 1.3 in your notes. See how it pretty much looks the same? It looks like they turned their paper like that. So see how mine looks and see how theirs looks. Pretty much the same. Okay, now I'm going to do the next one. It says bisecting an angle. So 1.4, cut an angle. Okay, so you got to start with an angle. So just pick 3 points and connect those lines. And there's my angle. Now I'm hoping that it, pretty much cuts it in half, somewhere around there, something like that. So how would I do that using a compass and not just eyeballing it? Well, it looks like I have to make an arc and then make an arc and then make an arc. They've made 3 arcs, so I'm going to show you how to make those 3 arcs. Step 1, I'm going to tighten this up here. I'm going to make an arc from the point that I had. Make an arc. Okay, there it is. Now, what I want to do is actually make an arc here from where my arc and that line cross. So I'm going to make an arc there. And then same thing, make an arc, make a new arc from where my line crossed. And it's kind of hard to see. So this was the first arc I made. And that made a new point here and a new point there. Then I made an arc from this new point here and made an arc from the new point there. You can kind of rewind that and replay. Notice last step, make a point where the arcs meet and just use a straight edge to line up. Look at how beautiful that is. I did, in fact, cut this angle in half, and when you cut something in half, it's called bisect. Awesome. Now I'm going to do another. This one we definitely did in class. It's a lot like this perpendicular bisector. It just says constructing perpendicular lines. So this one, I think we did this one in class, and I did it on the last video. So I think I'm going to do this isosceles triangle, something like this. Okay, so 1.6. So I'm going to do this one. Step 1, we just make a line. That's how a lot of these start. Step 2, I need a perpendicular line going up and down. So anywhere along in here, I can kind of pick some points. Doesn't matter where. And I want to go a little bit further than center because, again, I want 2 arcs that kind of look like a double-sided fish. So from this point, I make an arc and I don't adjust. And from this side, I make an arc, don't adjust. Notice my 2 arcs meet, and I take a straight edge and I just line those up. Okay. Now notice the height of this triangle is definitely a lot shorter than it is tall. It's not an equilateral triangle, but if I connected these, I'll call this point A, point B, point C. Because I didn't adjust my compass, this, I'll shade it in with my compass. This triangle should be isosceles because I made an arc here, so that's this distance, and I made an arc from A, that's this distance. Now this is a lot longer. So an isosceles has 2 equal sides. I constructed an isosceles triangle. Pretty cool. Now, one hard thing is this perpendicular line, but once you do perpendicular lines, you can start making squares or even rectangles because it's just a bunch of perpendicular lines. So let's try that one. I'm going to do this one. Let's say I did that one, right? Let's do perpendicular because if you can make perpendicular lines, you can probably make a lot of stuff. So let's try that one. Make a line. Okay. That's pretty much what we started with. Same thing, go a little bit more than halfway. So I made my line 8 long, so I want to go a little bit more than 4. Make an arc from one end. Do the same thing on the other. Make an arc on the other. Okay. Make a dot where the 2 intersected. Pretty close to halfway, right? Use a straight edge to connect those lines. That's a perpendicular bisector. Now I can keep going. I can actually twist my paper and do it again, try to make a perpendicular bisector from here. So I could, let's say, pick this point and that point. I'm going to call this D and E and try to make a perpendicular bisector between those. And that's pretty easy. I just make sure it's more than halfway, make an arc from D and make an arc from E. So I make an arc from E and make an arc from D. And there I go. I got 2, the arcs met here. Take a straight edge, fill in that line. Oh, look at what happened. These 2 lines are parallel. Oh, let me untwist my paper here. Woo. These 2 lines are parallel. So I'm going to name this line little m and little n. This line I'll call little p. It's pretty obvious since I did a double perpendicular bisector that line M and line N are parallel. Line P is perpendicular to both line M and N. Thanks for joining us for constructions.